think Sweden is one of the strongest heavy metal country because Bathory started black metal, and then Calamus was one of the first epic doom metal bands, and now you have Watain, Ghost, and cool band. What is that? What is the difference between Sweden and other countries?
The thing is that I've started writing a new book, which is called. My previous 3 books have been called the Encyclopedia of Swedish hard rock and heavy metal, but now I've started writing the history of Swedish hard rock and heavy metal, and I aim to find out why.
So now you're working on it.
Yeah, the thing is that what I will do with this book is not only like tell the history of all the bands and everything, but I wanted to find out, like in the 70s, what was the movement around? How were the hard rock bands seen from the outside, from parents, from teachers, from how did they get rehearsals and stuff, and also like in the 80s and 90s. And I remember for myself, I think one thing that is different between Swedish bands and, for instance, American bands is that we have quite bad self-confidence. So Swedish bands, they will rehearse for 5 years and don't play any shows because we're not good enough. And American bands, they buy clothes and then they go out and say we're a metal band, and they can't play. Some of them, like back in the 80s. So I think that Swedish bands, they want to have everything perfect before they do their shows or record the records. We also have very easy to get rehearsal space for free. We have what is called a study circle in Sweden, which means that you get government money for rehearsing, and you also get free rehearsal space because they want to encourage people to do things. You can do music, you can do pottery, you can do sewing or whatever, but then you can have then you can have a study circle, and you get money, and you get a space where you can be. So I think that has also made it easy for a lot of bands to rehearse, to get better, and I think that's one of the reasons.
So, could you recommend us some very obscure Swedish metal stuff, which everyone should check out?
There are actually, which is one thing I did with this, the new book. On my previous books, I've had CDs with unreleased tracks by well-known bands, but on this one, I wanted to show the world that there are so many Swedish bands that never made it, or recorded an album but split before, or never became big. So on that CD, there's some bands that I think are really obscure and really great.
It doesn't have to be that obscure.
Okay. Some obscure. There's one old 70s band, early 70s, only released one single. They're called Alexander Lucas. One of the songs is called Speed, and the other Svarta Skogen, the Black Wood. It's also very early, very rare and obscure single. One band that I think should have been bigger, which is also one of the early, really heavy Swedish bands, is Neon Rose. They released 3 albums between 74 and 76.
How do you spell it?
N-E-O-N.
Neon.
Neon. Rose. R-O-S-E. R-O-S-E.
Neon Rose.
Yeah. They are especially like they made 3 albums: Dream of Glory and Pride, 2, and Reload. And they are heavy, a bit progressive, really great riffs, and they were actually on Vertigo in Sweden, but never released outside of Sweden. And they are one of the reasons that I play heavy metal as well. What other notes now?
A few from the 80s?
The 80s. There was a lot of singles released by bands in the 80s that were actually, a lot of them were really, really good. One was, let's see if I can come to think of it. Let's see here.
Well, it doesn't have to be single, just some album. So.
Yeah. Let's see. One band was called Alan Beddoe Band. Alan Beddoe, but that was kind of more like bluesy hard rock stuff. There was one very heavy, also an interesting story. The band was called Epidemic, and they released one vinyl album. And the funny thing that was that the original singer, when they were going to record the album, the original singer was so bad that when they started recording, they noticed he can't sing. We got to get another guy, and they found a singer in the local town who they knew he was a great singer, but he sang pop songs. They said, "Oh, can you sing on our recording?" Okay, he said, and he came there, and he had a shock when he heard the music. But it became really good records. Kind of a rarity today, but Epidemic, really good record.
So, could you tell us something about your books to Japanese fans?
Okay, yeah. My first book was released in 1996, and at first I was just gonna do. I have a big record collection. I just had all my records in a list, and a friend of mine wanted to know which Swedish records I had, so I sorted out.
How many vinyls do you have?
And now vinyls and CDs, I have over 18,000.
Sorry, 18,000.
18,000. So I think it's about 7,000 or 8,000 vinyls and 10,000, 11,000 CDs. And then he wanted to check which Swedish records I had, and we compared. We were collecting, both of us. And then when I had all these records, the Swedish records, thought to myself, why don't I try to make like a book of it? Because there wasn't any. There was an international encyclopedia where there were 5 Swedish bands, and I knew there were more. So that's how I started it. And the first book came in 1996, and it was very well received. And I actually had a lot of letters from Japan with want lists. Can you get me these records? I was like, okay, if I'd thought about it, I could have bought all the records and made a lot of money. And then I said, after the book, I'm never going to do a book again. It was too much job. And I spent so much time on the phone. There was no internet back then. And then, of course, there was a new band coming, Swedish band. I wrote down the information.
Never ends.
No, and then so in 2002 the second book was released, and the first book contained 1,000 bands. The second book contained 600 new bands, and then after the second book I said, no, this is the last one. And then the same thing happened. Okay, I'll just write down the information and see what happens. And so about 4 years ago I was talking to the publishing company, and they said, oh, maybe it's time for a new book. And I said, yeah, okay. And then I started working on it. So I worked around 3.5 years, 6 days a week, 3 hours per day with this book. And I also play guitar in 3 bands, and I write for a music magazine and a couple of websites, and I also do other jobs as well. So I don't sleep that much. So in September last year, that was when we had the deadline for this book, and because we wanted to have it out by Christmas. And I kept adding bands in the last minute, and I do all the layout myself. So I was cursing myself for, oh damn, now I got to try to fit in another band. So the same day that I sent in the manuscript to the printers, I added the last band. But this one is 912 pages, 3,600 bands. And only bands that have made CD or vinyl are featured in the book, so no demo bands.
It's surprising that there are so many bands in Sweden.
Yeah, and you know there's 9 million people in Sweden.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're not that many.
Yeah, it's less than Tokyo population.
Yeah. And also in Sweden, because we're not that many, there's a lot of. I mean, I play in 3 different bands, and there's a lot of like people playing different bands and here and there. So we're like that also. I think that's why it's a friendly environment, because everybody are friends with each other. There's no like real battle between bands or no. So I think that's why it works as well, and you can borrow musicians, and like we did now with OVERDRIVE here, and we got Jimmy to play with us. And And also in the book I have a registry, name registry, so there's 11,700 musicians that are in the book as well. And I have heard every band in the book.
It's amazing.
I don't have every record in the book, but I've heard every band. So because I've written like a comment to what they sound like. So that was my goal, to hear every band. So
you know every band from Sweden.
Yeah, actually I heard that I've actually missed 2 bands.
Just the only
So,
2, but
Yeah. But there may be a couple more. But sometimes there are some collectors that they have a record with the Swedish band, but they don't want to tell me, because if it's not in the book, then it's super rare, and they can charge a lot of money for it.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the last, could you please give a message to the Japanese fans?
Yes.
To the cameras.
Yes. よろしくお願いします。It's a pleasure being here in Japan again. Love your country, love your music, and this time I also could bring my band here, OVERDRIVE. It's been a real pleasure playing for all you metal fans, you crazy metal fans here in Japan. And now my book will also be available through HMV here in Japan. So hope you buy it, and I hope you find a lot of new Swedish bands that you didn't know of. So good hunting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.